Right, welcome to episode 107, I'm pretty sure, of What is Civilization Started Over. The past, well, it's only 3 videos because I just made part 3 of What the Spanish Won, 7 Years' War, which is the lead up to World War II, which is really crazy. So that should be uploaded soon, and it's really cool. But I haven't made one of these videos in a while, and that's just for a multitude of reasons. Like, I had school stuff, and also I just thought of the Spanish thing, and I was like, that sounds really cool. Um, but yeah, excited to be back. I wasn't quite sure how to start this next era because this next era is so different to World War Four, the World War Four era. I mean, everything changes now, and it's gonna be so much more insane World War Five. I just didn't know where to start with that. But at the moment, we are just in the post-war, like just after World War Four, and the map. By the way, let's just start with that. The map looks very different. We're gonna zoom out a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. There you go. It's a big, sort of weird Alaskan empire. We have a ton of other countries, like new ones appear in Siberia. Europe is very changed, which we'll get into more because Europe's kind of important. China's back, and it looks kind of different. Japan looks cool. Western Australia's doing pretty well. South America didn't change, so that's makes sense. Africa didn't really change that much, but Morocco did something. And North America has changed a little bit, with Texas and the New England country now being even more powerful. And Vancouver's also kind of doing something. Anyway, that's pretty fun. But I thought whilst we were here, we might as well do power rankings to kind of like set the scene for the next few episodes because the new number one country in the world is Italy. Over the course of the war, they've taken over as the most powerful country in the world. They are a very militarily powerful country, but their economy is also pretty good, and they've got some new territories in southern France, which is pretty important, and also these Balearic Islands. Next, after that, is the Gangiatic country, who probably during the war, well, maybe not. I don't know. They're pretty strong though. They have a really nice economy and lots of new evolving sectors. There's still social inequality and lots of other bad things in the country, but it's getting better. Number 3 is China. Makes sense. I maybe think they'd be stronger. They're a bit like Russia after World War IV. Their growth rates mean that they should potentially in the future overtake, but also kind of a big mess, this country. Number 4 is Norway. They didn't really lose that much, and they're still really strong. Number 5 is Morocco. They probably should have been ranked higher in the previous era. But yeah, they are very strong. Lots of investment in the country during the war, and reliance upon them because they weren't super involved for loads of it. Number 6 is still Britain. They're doing pretty well. They're still a core territory. Tibet is in number 7. They're a pretty huge country and lots of investment from China like ages ago, and they just carried that on. Number 8 is Poland, who's pretty large, and they look very cool as well. Number 9 is Northern Brazil, who's, they're moving up in the world. They're doing pretty cool. And number 10 is Western Australia, who is also moving up in the world. Putting Australia on the screen for once, so that's nice. Where do we want to go? Actually, we do want to go to one of these up-and-coming nations, Brazil, as they will be the first country to I'll do a war first. First country to disrupt the peace following World War IV, as they begin their invasion of the Amazonian country, one of the poorest nations in the world. Brazil kind of just wants their resources, so they push in over here in the west, or east of the country, taking over a major city, and then pushing towards, some big part of the Amazon River, I suppose. Also, just take over this other city right near their border, so that's gone. To be honest, the real defense of this country is the fact they have the Amazon rainforest, and that's kind of why the Brazilians want this country, because of the resources in there. But yeah, they're doing a pretty good job of just pushing in, and after they've kind of taken out most of the main urban centres, they're going to push to the capital. It's really far away, but they don't have a too tricky time doing that. Lots of people are conscripted over here, because of course this country is ideologically an authoritarian dictatorship, whilst the Brazilians are a democracy, just a very expansionist one. Although to be fair, I'd rather live under the northern Brazilian government than whatever this is. But the country, following this, collapses in not too long, and in the peace treaty, it's pretty predictable. The Brazilians will annex the full thing. Wouldn't be very nice to leave a very little Amazonian country. And now Brazil is even bigger. Yeah, they look pretty cool, I think. But let's go to the other thing that I remembered just before I started that, and that is the Nations Alliance. Because this thing has now entirely collapsed. Before the war, we had nations like Italy leave, and Poland and Bulgaria. I don't quite remember how the war started, to be honest. It might have been something to do with that. I don't know. I'm not really sure. As I said before, it was a while ago when I did this. But they all left, and after the collapse of the Triangular Union and the dissolution of that nation, the entire nation's alliance will fall apart. So I'll zoom out a bit so you can see all the countries that were involved in the nation's alliance at its last stage. Mostly over here in Europe, in these small European countries, but they're also now all gone. So that's pretty sad. Goodbye, nation's alliance. I'm just gonna move you all the way over here. Bye bye. Whilst I'm over at this part of my thing, we can look at Antarctica, which has kind of reverted back with the French in the west. The Galicians still own this bit. The Carthaginians still own this bit. The British have got this bit. This is Eastern German, which is strange. The Germans had that previously. This is the Gangetic bit. They took that from the Koreans, who I believe took it from the Orange Chinese. And this is the Western Australian portion. So, kind of weird, but you know, it's fine. I don't know what else to do with Antarctica other than giving it to those countries that I gave it to. So, there's that. Sorry, I have a cup of tea. But let's do another war, and this time it's not going to be a war against another country, it's going to be a civil war, because although Italy is the strongest country in the world, they're not the most stable country in the world, by a long shot. Italy, during the war, got nuked to hell. Okay, they have 4 nuclear bombs, but no, there's a lot of nukes that got hit all over Italy because of some people. Also Germany's in a pretty bad spot. Poland's alright. You're just bad from having Russia. China, I think you're kind of not in a great way. Yeah, those are the main ones. Anyway, yeah, Italy's just really not in a great way, and they're gonna fall into a civil war. I'll elaborate that further when I draw the lines. And here we are. Italy has fallen into a civil war between 3 main areas. There's probably some smaller ones, but I'm not sure this is the right shade of grey. But it doesn't really matter. Wait, is it? No, maybe. Is this the shade of grey I want? But yeah, the shade of grey is obviously, if you've seen a bit of Italian history before, it's the military dictatorship that they had before the war. They want to return to power. Italy turned democratic in 2005, and they have elections every 5 years. So that means 2010 they had one, 2015, and 2020. The war started from 2022, and now it's 2026, and they haven't had an election, and everyone's really angry because the party won the war, and that was good, but those people died, everything's nuked, and they were like, well, you kind of screwed up with stuff. So people are angry. A lot of angry French people as well in the west, which is them rebelling over here. The purple country area is the democratic government, and you know what, let's just start the civil war. So the French group is going to take the initiative first, but like they're going to do some stuff as they push up into this territory, and also push around connecting up these bits and more of the stuff down here in the south, as they try and move towards this major city around here and take over this. The democratic force in this area are basically going to fall over, and any Italian forces, Italian people that live in this area are going to kind of be like, hey, Italy, save me. So the Italians start to push in to try and consolidate this land, but it's all recently taken over by the French. The island of Corsica falls, and along with the rest of the island of Sardinia, and we see the joining up of all of these fronts over here. The Austrian people are very against this, except for in this area where they got nuked. And as you can see, a lot of the territories where people were nuked, they're in support of the military dictatorship. Down here in this Balkan region, they managed to connect up a lot. However, they don't quite manage to push out the military people from this area. In Sicily as well, we see people from the other Tyrrhenian islands sail over, and they take over the entire island, pushing down through the south, However, forces from this southern territory start to move up and are going to cut off this point over here. They'll start to invade towards these areas, and with people from the capital city arriving, they're going to manage to work out against this territory and also into this bit over here, but they don't fully manage to destroy it. The people in the north will manage to cut across this territory, and they manage to take over the northern parts of the Austrian region, and also start to move down into the Croatian and Slovenian parts of the country. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Over here in the French zone, they managed to occupy all of this territory, and they're not really fighting the military dictatorship, they're just trying to hold the defensive in the hope that they'll be able to reunify with France, because this is like the best opportunity they're going to get. So they're not going to do any more expansionist stuff, like sail around to the Balearic Islands, but you know, some people are going to sail to the Balearic Islands, and they take over those, so that's nice. How the Italian kind of interim government here will manage to push out against this stuff, and also down in the southern areas here. However, they're going to have less successes up here in the north, as more people who are angry at the nukes and the civil war and all the fighting that's going on, they're kind of like, hey, the democratic government is actually just really warlike, and this military dictatorship, is going to ensure peace for our people. In the Balkan front, however, we do see the destruction of the military in that area, and finally they will also fall over around here. And the Italian state has 4 nuclear bombs, and most of them are held in the capital, probably all of them, really. So that's something to think about, but I don't think they're going to nuke their own country. But at this point, the war is going to start to stalemate. There's lots of people rising up in different territories, like in some of the Venetian Austrian areas, see democratic people rise up, and then generally across most of areas in northern Italy, that's where there's a lot of support for the military. Whilst the Balkans isn't really doing much at all either. However, it's more of ethnic stuff that kind of caused these things to go badly for the democratic government, as Greek rebels in support of joining or rejoining the nation of Greece start to pop up over here in these southern areas, which is full of Greek religion people, and also in the southern areas down here. So as you can see, both of those territories have a lot of Greek people, and this kind of just causes a huge collapse for the democratic part of the government, as the Italian military manages to push it right back down across the coast over here, and the people are like, we need protection from the Greek people, so save us. Well, these guys are all kind of Italian, but they're also religiously Greek and whatever. So they start to fall over on a lot of these fronts, and we even see some of these other nuclear major cities start to go, you know what, actually these guys are fine. They push out to the coast again, taking over these cities. And in some of these rural areas around, they manage to take over. They push over to Elba and take over those islands. And now the capital city and sort of the major urban area in the south are both fighting. And the war will continue for maybe a few more months. However, ultimately, it's kind of obvious to see what's going to happen. The president is finally killed, and the capital city is overthrown, and that's just this little bit left all on its own. And the military manages to take over, declaring a new Italian government, a bit like this. So effectively, the nation comes back, but it's still in their eyes in a civil war because the Greeks and the French are still rebelling. So the war does not end. Most of the forces are up here in the north, and from there they're going to move out against the French forces. France over here is incredibly demobilized because of the war, and the people can't really afford to fight, so they just have to sit back and watch as their southeastern kind of people are absolutely eviscerated by the Italian military. And then the same thing happens here in Greece, who can't really fight the Italians because Bulgaria would join and just destroy them again. So ultimately, the military dictatorship is back in power in Italy, and to a lot of people around the world, this is pretty bad. They just fought this big war against Frangoism, which is this ideology. They were like, oh, it's all autocratic and bad, and then, like, probably not even a year later, Italy's been taken over by a military dictatorship, and now there's another new autocracy in Europe, and this alliance of 3 main countries which managed to win World War III, the Polish, the Bulgarians, and the Italians, is now two-thirds autocratic. So that's not great. But we do need to do another civil war, and it's actually going to be over here in the Andalusian country, as I'm not quite sure what shade of orange, but one of them. Well, it's going to start to rise up over here as they want their own kind of freedom breakaway, not because of religious stuff, but just different views to the government. And it's a pretty rural area. However, the Italian military government, they're still pretty active. So I probably should have done a different event before this, but it doesn't really matter. Just imagine there's been some time in between. The next events we do, imagine they go first. You guys had time to heal, and they're now back to doing aggressive military stuff, and they're going to fund this rebellion over here in northern Andalusia. And although, it looks pretty bad from the start, as the Andalusians start to absolutely blitz through, the Italian pressure on the Andalusian state and the threat of being invaded by the strongest country in the world will force them to give independence to this country. They don't really have any friends anymore, and it's kind of a sad existence that the Andalusian country lives in. So they're forced to give independence to it, but it doesn't get like all of the country, and it's not going to be a super massive nation either. So here we go. Here's our new kind of Madrid country. I don't know where is this in Spain. I tried to learn all the Spanish provinces, but I'm not really that good at them. Is that? That's Madrid. Is this Castilla Madrid? I don't know. I don't know why I did it in a French accent. I just can't really do a Spanish one, so I just do French instead. But that wasn't even that good French. Anyway, these guys put the capital over here, and they are effectively an Italian puppet state. Well, that's what they become in not too long, and because of that, they're going to join the Italian military alliance. Speaking of military alliances, just whilst we're here, the Circle military alliance obviously doesn't exist anymore. That was disbanded after the war, so all you guys need to leave. Goodbye, France. Actually, that was just the Franco-Unions bit. Germany, no. Norway, your alliance is gone. Romania, oh, poor Romania, you look kind of sad. And also America, who also looks very sad as well. Their nation is not as big as it used to be at all. So goodbye. They got jumped by those people they didn't think they'd get jumped by though. So it's kind of fair to be a bit sad. The Koreans, goodbye, goodbye, and goodbye. West Papua, who also looks very sad. But yeah, alliances, as I said before, trapezium, you get trapezium. It's a very little country, but also this nation is quite importantly a military dictatorship, which means that now 75% of this alliance is a military dictatorship, so that's really great. Yeah, cool new Italian puppet state over here in Iberia. Don't know what that's really going to do, but sure. Economic alliances, I'll fix that at some point. But I kind of want to head over here to Northern Europe, because the little Ingrian country around here is going to be leading an invasion. They haven't done a whole lot since like episode 50, when they remembered the Finnish Druidic bloc, and then they had a coup where the king took over the country because it was co-ruling with the religious leader. So that was interesting. And now they're going to invade Estonia. So Estonia is just a poor little guy right here. They've been invaded by the Russians a lot, and now they're getting invaded by mini Russia, who I might make you do a different color here. But they push around this annoying lake. I want to remove this lake. It looks so bad. I managed to take this major city. The Estonians are very demilitarized, whilst the Ingrians had a lot of stuff to do with fighting in the Russian Civil War. They managed to push over to the Baltic Sea, or this part of the Baltic. This is the Gulf of Riga, pretty easily, and take the Estonian capital city. They've only really got 3 major cities, so yeah, it's not a very tricky war for the Ingrians, but you know, it's getting them up there, and they now have some new different borders that don't look amazing, and it's kind of because of this bit here, so that looks a lot better. But you have to fight these guys too if you want that bit. Anyway, bye Estonia. Basically the same color, so it's kind of not too big of a change. Now anyway, we need to head over. Wait, what? What shape is your military alliance? I swear you have a military alliance. Do you not? Well, I guess we can create that now. What shapes haven't we used anymore? We don't have a circle alliance anymore, so I might make that. What shapes do we have? We got squares, trapeziums, and only diamonds. What the hell? Sure. You can be a circle. But yeah, whilst we're here, we might as well have the formation of the Hejaz military alliance between Hejaz, the South Sinai country, and its little friend over here. They finally all properly band together in one military alliance of Hejazi countries. And there's a lot more Hejazi religion around this territory. But the thing is, there's also a lot of other religions here, like Spanish brought over by the Iberians, Carthaginian, because that's the big North African religion. There's some Roman, there's some Greek in Libya, lots of Mesopotamian core religion. It's all a huge mess in East Africa. Not this bit, that bit's kind of simple. Anyway, what was I even talking about? I don't know. I was talking fast. Yeah, let's go over to Poland. Because Poland's got some more expansionist ideals. They're a very militarized country. At the moment, it's probably 2029, which is in the future from where we are. So now, officially, the series has gone into the future. So anything could happen. Our world might not even make it to 2029, and that's depressing. Anyway, Poland, yeah, they want to invade some guys. So there's a lot of places they could invade. They can invade Eastern Germany. It's a pretty strong country now. Pretty close to the top 10. It's just they're pretty nuked, and they don't really have any allies. This weird Latvian country, sure. This is Gallian country, whatever the hell this is. Ukraine, you just invaded, but they're pretty weak. Romania looks very sad. They're also very weak. Hungary kind of worked with you, so maybe don't invade them. They've got some weird bit over there, but they're cool. And then obviously don't invade your ally. So there's a few pretty good options, especially around this area. Poland doesn't care enough, so they're going to invade Eastern Germany. Eastern Germany thought they were kind of chill with Poland, but unfortunately they are definitely not, as Polish forces start to cross over into the East German state. Now, Eastern Germany, after the war, they took over all of Western Germany and some other bits. But the people have all kind of consolidated behind the East German government, and they're now very pro-East German. They're very right-wing here in Germany before, but very quickly they've managed to shift their ideals, and they've become much more leftist, like the East German people were. Unfortunately, the Polish are right-wing, so that sucks. But yeah, the Polish do a pretty good invasion. However, there are still some like uprising things in Western Germany, as there's still some very hardliner right-wing people. So they're dealing with a lot of civil conflict even 3 years later. It's definitely lessened, but it's still apparent. And that's going to be a drain on the East German country, stopping them from getting into the top 10. But yeah, now Poland is going to invade into their country, so that sucks. They take over Danzig and a sort of East Pomeranian city around here, and they move towards the capital city. Poland, importantly, has a claim on all of this territory because it's culturally and ethnically Polish. Here's the region map. I changed it. I just made it one section for all the different ethnic minorities in all the different countries. This is Moroccan, but it's a weird color. Also, haven't updated the orange bit. Yeah, obviously. But that's cool. These guys aren't probably done. I just drew them all as one color and haven't got to them yet. Anyway, Poland's basically got all the stuff they need, but just to drive the fact home, they are really strong and cool now. They're going to take the East German capital and force the East German government into a peace treaty with them. So, yeah, you do that, Poland. Good on you. Actually, I can use the peace treaty here, unless I change it slightly, as all they really want is this territory right in Eastern Germany, which is going to kind of reverse the border back to when they got independence, or the Germans got independence, because you can kind of see the old axe bit there. But Poland basically just takes over all of this land, and now they're kind of cool and back. There you go. I'm not sure if I love these borders, so I might change them a little bit. There you go. I changed them. So Eastern Germany has the capital in a really bad spot now, but basically they traded. I think they got this province. They gave that one to the Poles, and they gave that one to the Poles, and then they took this one. So it's kind of fair, and I guess the reason could be like resources or just wanting a new population hub. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted nicer borders. The Eastern Germans might have to move their capital though, because that's a bad spot. Poland looks kind of weird. I'm not sure if I love their borders now. Yeah, they did some more border exchange stuff. I don't know. There you go. So Poland has now got pretty cool borders over in the west. Germany looks meh. I'm going to move the capital in the next episode because I don't like how it looks. But Poland, though. Poland is definitely earning that number 8 spot that I gave them. And the world beyond here is going to go pretty interesting. A lot of new military things. Poland is now invading places. And, so does Ingrid. But Ingrid doesn't really matter. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you again next time. Like, subscribe, comment, and have a nice rest of your day.